What are some dark truths about modern dating, and what are the things that you should avoid and watch out for? Story 1. I feel there's just so much nitpicking on the tiniest things. I went to one last month and thought our conversation and chemistry were so phenomenal. I haven't felt like that in a while, and even felt comfortable with her thinking we had the same type of humor. Then it all changed after I felt too comfortable. In the beginning, she said she lived in Brooklyn, but later in our conversation, she said she's actually from Queens. I totally got that for safety reasons and said I understood because in another conversation, I told her that I don't have Instagram, but I actually do, and kept that from her because I had a stalker. Through text, I eventually told her later on that I actually do have an Instagram, and I wasn't sure how she took it, but her reply was, "Oh, so you lied, huh?" And I said back jokingly, "Lol, yeah," says the girl who said she's from Brooklyn. Asking her out again, she straight up told me, "Don't think we're going forward from here. Just felt you were mocking my safety after that conversation." I can totally get that I might have felt too comfortable and not intended to make her feel that way, but I thought our beginning conversation overpowered that fumble so much more, and that we could have communicated better. And the fact that it's through text, so I couldn't tell if she was that serious. Before we continue, do us a quick favor, smash that like button and subscribe to support our channel. Story 2. I was doing online dating for a while and actually had some decent success, but then something awful happened that completely ruined it for me. Someone anonymously posted about me on one of those "Are we dating the same guy" type of social media pages. My ex, her friends, and a bunch of strangers piled on with lies and hateful comments. The post probably reached like 85,000 women in my city. That experience totally destroyed my chances at online dating, crushed my self-confidence, and gave me anxiety about even talking to people who might have seen it. Suddenly, every message or match felt like walking on eggshells, worried that my reputation was already poisoned. Online dating can be a huge liability. It can work out great, but the risk of getting publicly dragged or misrepresented is real, and it can seriously mess with your mental health. Story 3. You can mistake a genuine connection with someone, and really, it was just someone with really good social skills. I just had this happen. Not on a dating app even, but just hanging out with them. It is quite easy to misinterpret various signals when someone is very friendly and invites you to numerous one-on-one activities. I expressed my feelings to her, and she clarified that she views me as a friend. I also learned that she has recently begun dating another one of my friends. Nevertheless, such situations are not uncommon, and it is always valuable to have a good friend. I admitted my feelings towards her, and she said she sees me as a friend, and she just started dating another of my friends, actually. I found out 2 days ago. Oh well, it happens. It's never bad to have a good friend. I just misinterpreted a lot of things when she's just super friendly. I had a guy invite me to his house, solo, for dinner. Pretty sure he was maybe gay? Nope, just wanted to play video games with me, show me his rig, and order KFC with me. I would expect that from my nerd friends, but not this construction worker bodybuilder. Then he kept complaining about the heat and wouldn't put a shirt on. It's wild how someone can mirror your energy so well that you swear it's fate, but really, they just know how to read people. It took me a while and a few bruises to realize that chemistry doesn't always mean connection. Chemistry also doesn't always predict the ability to communicate constructively and respectfully and openly about the real stuff, the emotions, goals, navigating disagreements when they come up, receiving and giving vulnerability, etc. It can be easy to get swept up in what feels like lots of surface-level charm, only to realize that the surface dynamic doesn't always correspond with the ability to handle the deeper but important things. I've dated people who were incredibly charming and quite attractive. Like, sure, everyone is into super attractive people, but if they don't have personality, it becomes easy to feel that you have no chemistry. With people who are both good-looking and charismatic, it's easy to get sucked in and find yourself feeling infatuated. It's only when things start to feel off or get shaky that you slowly realize you have little in common and little to connect over. Sometimes, rarely, it can still work if you have the right energy, if you are genuinely able to like each other despite being different. But most often, someone being appealing, even with mutual feelings of high appeal, doesn't mean you're right for each other. On a similar note, sometimes you think you're hitting it off with someone on a date, but really, it's just your own extroverted, fun personality carrying the vibe, and they're not actually as interesting as they seemed. Story 4. Coming from personal experience, I think it would be love bombing in the initial stage of the dating process, which makes you believe that the other person is genuinely interested in getting into a relationship with you. Not long after, you would see the complete opposite of what the person portrayed in the beginning, and then you would be left with absolute disbelief and would doubt your intuitions at every alerting point. This would eventually snowball into you developing a codependency on the other person, while they start to actually show their dismissive and avoidant side. Scary but real. The whole love bombing thing bothers me a lot. I just like saying cutesy things, hugging a lot, and if I can, giving small gifts that I know the other person will like. It's a me thing. People described me as a very protective and doting person in relationship terms. And now I have to worry that the other person will be scared off because of this love bombing thing. Story 5. Watch out for people who approach dating with a gimme mindset. The ones who walk around acting like they're the prize and that you're just lucky to be in their presence. This isn't about gender. I've seen it in men, women, and non-binary folks. It doesn't matter who it is. If someone goes into dating thinking they're owed something, whether it's your money, your time, your attention, your body, or whatever, that's a huge issue. Dating should be about building something meaningful together. It's supposed to be a shared experience, a connection you nurture, not a transaction you're trying to cash out of. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with having wants or expectations in a relationship. That's totally valid. It's the attitude that makes the difference. You can want love, respect, affection, or even financial security. That's fair. But when someone behaves like just showing up earns them all of that automatically, that's when it turns toxic. These kinds of people rarely care about who you are. They care about what they can get from you. And if you're not careful, you'll find yourself constantly giving while getting nothing meaningful in return. Story 6. One thing I think is seriously hurting modern dating is the instant gratification culture. It's everywhere. Social media, how we communicate, how we consume content, and yes, how we approach relationships. Everyone wants the perfect person right now with zero issues, and if there's even the slightest disagreement or bump in the road, it's like, nope, I am out. Look, I am not saying you should tolerate toxic or abusive behavior. Absolutely not. But I've seen people cut each other off over the most minor differences or misunderstandings, and it's honestly sad. Relationships, real, meaningful, healthy ones, take time, effort, and patience. You can't just swipe your way into something deep and lasting and expect it to be perfect from day one. It's like people forgot that growth and connection take work. Yes, put yourself first, know your worth, and walk away when it's right too. But also take some accountability. Not everything is a red flag. Sometimes it's just a difference in communication styles or a moment of misalignment that can be worked through if both people care. Not everything needs to be disposable. Not everyone needs to be replaced just because they're not flawless 24/7. One seriously ugly truth I've seen is how rampant cheating has become, and a lot of it comes down to how easy it is to just swipe away the moment someone gets bored or annoyed. Instead of working through problems or communicating like adults, people just jump ship chasing that greener grass somewhere else. What's worse is most of the time, you would never even know someone is cheating until they screw up or suddenly break up with you out of nowhere. It's a cruel kind of betrayal that thrives in the swipe-happy, instant gratification dating culture we live in. Dating apps and social media make it way too easy for people who struggle with long-term commitment or who just don't want one to keep cycling through relationships without really growing or learning. It's like these platforms are playgrounds for serial commitment phobes. A big thing to remember, how you get them is how you lose them. If someone's approach to dating is all about quick flings, distractions, or convenience, that usually reflects how the relationship will end. Story 8. If you're both in your late 20s or older, and they insist on moving off the dating app chat too quickly, especially to something like Snapchat, it's quite likely they're in a relationship and are cheating. They want to talk, but also delete the dating app ASAP so their significant other doesn't see. They will be deleting chats with you on their end for the same reason. This is why Snapchat is a popular choice in this context. If it's a profile that keeps constantly popping up despite you making it clear you're not interested, for example, swiping left on Tinder, they're either cheating so they match with people, move the conversation off the app, delete the account and app, the conversation fizzles out, situationship plays out, and now they're back on Tinder with a new reactivated account looking for new people, or a walking red flag, not getting many matches due to a rancid personality, so they keep remaking a new profile over and over, since most people have already swiped no or unmatched blocked them. Story 9. Avoid dating a woman who expects you to spend money on her constantly. The only bills you should really be responsible for paying are the ones related to the home you share together. If she's comfortable asking you for money but not comfortable living with you or building a life with you, that's a big red flag. I am not talking about showing support in a long-term, committed relationship. That's totally normal and healthy. But when you're just a few weeks into dating, it's ridiculous for someone to expect financial favors or to treat you like an ATM. A sad truth for many men is that being used for their money is often the only way they feel appreciated by some partners. And even appreciation might be a stretch in those cases. It's a painful reality that gets ignored a lot in conversations about dating. Story 10. About 99% of Tinder profiles are fake, and the company really doesn't care because it needs to keep its user numbers high. This problem feels especially glaring when you live somewhere with a small dating pool. Another harsh truth is that many women treat dating apps like a supermarket, just collecting matches and casually hooking up. Meanwhile, a lot of guys are struggling just to meet anyone. Some even brag about how many matches they get, which can feel pretty demoralizing to the people genuinely trying to find a connection. There's also this huge gap between how people see themselves and how others actually perceive them. For example, some women want a man with a six-figure salary who's 6 feet tall, but might be overweight, have kids, and be unemployed themselves. A lot of this fantasy comes from unrealistic expectations fueled by things like Disney movies. And then there's the love bombing. When women decide they like someone, they'll shower them with affection and attention. But once they spot something, often an invented red flag picked up from TikTok or other sketchy sources, they'll just dump the person. It's like dating has become this toxic roller coaster of extremes. Story 11. One thing I've definitely noticed, narcissists love dating apps. For them, it's like a never-ending buffet of free attention, compliments, and validation. Swipe culture feeds egos like nothing else, and the really good ones, they know exactly how to play the game. They come off as charming, confident, and way too polished. If someone seems too perfect right out of the gate, be careful, it might be a performance. I've seen it up close too. My 57-year-old cousin is addicted to these free dating apps. Her profile says she's 45, and she uses every filter in the book. Doesn't stop younger guys from swiping right and hooking up though. The thing is, after the fun part, they block her, every time. She's aging in Nick Nolte years, and these dudes still line up for her curated persona until they ghost. It's harsh, but it just shows how shallow and disposable online dating has become. People are more interested in the thrill and attention than in the actual connection. Story 12. You have to make sure before you invite them over that they aren't homeless. Years ago, I met a woman who lived one state over. We talked, and she seemed completely normal, if a bit of a free spirit. I had to go to her city for work, so we met and had dinner. There seemed to be chemistry, so the next weekend I drove up to stay with her. Got to her house and her room. She was renting a room from a friend, or so she said, was completely empty except for a big hiking-style backpack, her laptop, and a bedroll. She said she had a bad back. We did all sorts of fun things around town, but in retrospect, they were all cheap or no-cost things that she was suggesting. She did get me into a low-budget zombie film her friend was shooting, and I got an IMDb credit for that. The next weekend, she wanted to come and stay with me, but she didn't have a car. So I rode up to pick her up, and she hopped in my truck with her backpack, laptop, and bedroll. I didn't think too much about it, but after the weekend was over, which was weird, she said, "You're my boyfriend. I love you, and it's us against the world." I was like, whoa, slow down, and I realized she was not planning on going back. She did a 180 on me, and I was the biggest jerk in the world. It was a tense 24 hours till I could get her friend to come pick her up. After she left, I did a quick inventory, and she drank 6 bottles of liquor and stole all my family heirloom silver dollars and my 8x13 Pyrex baking dish. Story 13. People have now become disposable. You could be falling in love with somebody and accidentally say the wrong damn thing, or wear a t-shirt they don't like, or have a bad day, or disagree on some minor detail like whether or not Taylor Swift sucks, and suddenly you're completely cut off. Their contacts changed, their socials have locked you out, and you can't reach them. You have to be prepared for heartache because everyone is quickly replaceable. Nobody has bothered practicing making up or compromising or trying to see another person's perspective. We all want perfection from the get-go and don't want to do the work to build something phenomenal. A quest to find the perfect mate will find you perfectly alone. With dating apps, you've got hundreds of potential partners at your fingertips. No one makes an effort anymore. They just wait for Mr. or Mrs. Perfect to fall into their lap and ghost anyone who drops the ball for even a second. It's brutal sometimes. Everyone is going to disagree with everyone else on something. I really do worry about younger generation's ability to perspective take and to think and live in nuance, i.e. reality. I am happily married and never used online dating sites, but I also wonder about the seemingly quick and easy replaceability of matches/connections. Why invest if you can easily ghost block someone or be ghosted blocked? I can imagine being ghosted on a date. I know being stood up has happened for ages, but just completely being ghosted seems both disrespectful, rude, and heartbreaking at the same time. People seem so fickle now, shallow, and just looking for whatever is easiest and only concerned about their own happiness and not how they affect others with their actions. Story 14. Honestly, one thing that really stands out to me is how rare it is to see anyone show their true selves anymore. Whether it's on social media or dating apps, everyone's busy crafting this perfect version of themselves, kind of like celebrities we admire or wish we could be. It's all filters, carefully curated pics, and just enough charm to hook people in. Because of that, in dating, we spend so much time pretending to be someone we're not that real. Connections become impossible. How can you build something meaningful when you're both performing rather than being authentic? No wonder so many relationships fizzle out or never really get off the ground. And on top of that, it feels like a huge chunk of people just want fun, one-night stands, or casual flings, rather than anything serious or long-lasting. It's not that there's anything wrong with that, but it makes it harder for people looking for real relationships. Story 15. One dark truth is that a lot of people treat dating apps like a game, not a path to real connection. It's more about dopamine hits than actual interest. You can have great conversations that go nowhere because some people just want validation or entertainment, not a relationship. Another thing to watch out for is situationships, where one person wants a real relationship and the other just wants the benefits without commitment. If someone's always vague about their intentions or avoids defining the relationship, believe their actions. Also, ghosting is sadly normalized. Emotional immaturity and avoidance have become the default for ending things. If you take things personally every time, it'll mess with your self-esteem. Story 16. The biggest truth about modern dating is that you're going to run into more idiots than gems. Dating today is fueled by constant gender bashing and sweeping generalizations like all men do this or all women do that, usually based on limited personal experiences. On top of that, many people come into new relationships carrying unresolved emotional trauma from past ones. They haven't healed properly, but expect their new partner to fix or heal them, which just creates more problems. One important piece of advice is to avoid going on fancy or expensive first dates. The purpose of a first date should be to get to know the other person, not to spend $200 or more on one evening. If someone demands that you take them somewhere expensive or sets unrealistic standards around that, save yourself the trouble. They probably aren't worth your time. If you find yourself thinking or saying things like, "Why do men and women always do this?" then you might not be ready to date yet. You haven't met every single person of that gender, so it's unfair and unhelpful to make broad statements. If you notice a recurring theme, It might be a sign you need to check in with your emotional state or be open to dating people outside of your usual type. It's also crucial to avoid giving your energy to people who don't reciprocate. A big example of this is communication. Online dating is very common now, and if someone doesn't match your energy when it comes to responding or making an effort to talk, just ditch them. Don't waste time catering to someone's lack of effort. They should be putting in the work too. For the ladies, one important tip is to avoid sleeping with them on the first date. Too often, women give it up too soon, only to be ghosted afterward and left wondering why. The harsh truth is that if a guy gets what he wants right away, he often feels no need to stick around. If you want someone to prove they're genuinely interested in dating you, then hold off on any intimate acts until you've dated for a while. It might sound old school, but waiting until the third or fourth date before getting physical often weeds out the playboys who won't put in the effort long term. Finally, never settle. This can't be stressed enough. It's perfectly okay to have standards. Sure, if your standards are unrealistically high, that's another issue, but basic standards like respect and courtesy are the bare minimum. You shouldn't settle just because you feel lonely or desperate. You deserve better than that. Story 17. People are so obsessed with checking boxes these days that they don't even give potentially amazing partners a chance. It's like everyone's walking around with this imaginary checklist: height, income, body type, job title, etc. And if someone doesn't hit every mark, they're instantly disqualified. Back when we used to meet people in person more often, we were surprised by who we clicked with. You might meet someone who wasn't your type at all, but had charisma, warmth, or a hilarious sense of humor, and suddenly you're hooked. You gave them a chance because you saw the whole person before judging. Now, that spark doesn't even get a shot. Dating apps flatten people into stats and selfies. We swipe left on the short guy or the slightly overweight woman without even a second thought, not realizing we might have passed up on someone we'd genuinely connect with if we'd met them in real life. Personality, humor, and emotional intelligence, those things don't always show through in a profile. And when we judge too fast, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to find someone who might not check all the boxes but fits our life in a way we never expected. So yeah, modern dating encourages snap decisions and superficial sorting, but maybe we'd all be a little happier if we focused less on perfection and more on connection. Story 18. There are bots created by the app's websites to stop you from leaving if you're not getting matches. Yeah, this is targeted to paying users, but I am unsure if that's the only case. Not only is it real, but if you pay for a super swipe to get a bot's attention, the company will just pocket that money and you'll just be ghosted within a day. I paid for Bumble Plus before because I had half a dozen people swiping right on me. But I wasn't getting any matches. After paying, they disappeared. When their payment expired, they returned. Evil at its finest. I had a few of the blurred ones disappear and reappear, but never got that match in months. My current girlfriend didn't have a single picture that would match with a blurred one, and as soon as I swiped on her, it was a match. They use some cruel tactics for sure. The apps suck, but if you get lucky. Story 19. One thing I've noticed and experienced firsthand is that a lot of people put way too much effort into becoming who they think others want, rather than just showing up as who they actually are. It's like dating has become this performance where everyone is filtering their personality, interests, and even their sense of humor just to seem more appealing or normal. I will be real. I was a weird kid, grew into an even weirder young adult. Now, I guess I've earned the title of colorful character. And yeah, being yourself in today's dating world can be tough. Rejection hurts no matter what. But I'd argue it hurts way more when you're being fake, constantly second-guessing yourself and still getting rejected anyway. The darker truth here is that if you're not careful, you can lose yourself in the process. You spend so much time trying to appear dateable, you forget who you even are. And modern dating culture kind of rewards that. Playing it cool, ghosting instead of being honest, pretending you're unbothered to seem desirable. But here's what I've learned. Being authentic might scare some people off, but it's the only way to build something real. When you finally meet people who love and accept you as you are, that connection is 100 times more fulfilling than anything you'll get from pretending to be someone you're not. Story 20. If they ghost you, Walk away. Be wary of them sliding back into your DMs in the future. Pay attention to inconsistent communication or things like, "I lost my charger" / "My phone died," "I forgot to call text," or "I've just been really busy." But it's all the time. Pay attention to breadcrumbing. Many people are emotionally unavailable and are pursuing stimulation and validation, not connection. Hookup culture can blur boundaries. Decide if you're cool with a situationship. There's very little communication because they're either not sure if they're interested or there's a better opportunity they care more about. Regardless of motivation, you deserve better. The problem with social media is that it makes you think there is always someone better, and the snippets of other people's curated lives give that impression. And then the dating apps provide other options. Not great. On the flip side, people don't have to reply immediately to texts, calls, as it's fine to disconnect, have a life, work, or be doing other things. Everyone has their own standard for what is a reasonable time to reply. It can be particularly difficult for people with things like ADHD and doesn't automatically mean they're disinterested, emotionally unavailable, or stringing someone along. I heard it as, if they like you, they'll make time for you. There are definitely legitimate reasons someone might be incommunicado, but you'll learn to recognize when the effort is put in, and conversely to recognize excuses like, "I forgot," for what they are. Story 21. If they seem uninterested or dry, don't bother. You don't want to be in a one-sided relationship where you're always fighting for their attention. But I met my wife on Tinder, and her first response was so dry, I thought about dropping her immediately, as I've seen a ton of similar answers where the other doesn't seem to care or put in any effort. But I decided to send at least one more message and see where it goes. It turned out she was just very shy and not a talkative person. The conversation opened quickly after that, and here we are. Story 22. Beware the paradox of choice. As we have so many options now, you risk throwing away a good thing because they aren't as pretty as the other girl you're speaking to or as funny as the other guy. When you date a person and there seems to be a connection, pause or delete the apps and put your effort into that one person. See how it goes for a few months. Trust me, because of dating apps and the huge amount of potential options just to swipe away, it is hard not to look for perfection, but perfection doesn't exist, so stop swiping, focus on this person for now, and stop looking for perfection. This huge amount of choice can really cloud your judgment and could potentially ruin a perfectly good budding relationship, all because you think, what if? Story 23. A lot of single people can't afford housing on a single income. It often takes two incomes combined to even qualify for a one-bedroom rental at today's prices. Even earners with six-figure incomes may not earn enough in HCO cities to qualify. This extremely high cost of housing is felt in dating, as there is a lot of pressure on couples to form and split rent. It's accelerating courtship timelines. It's also making it very obvious to young women that many single men are effectively homeless, living out of Airbnbs or on couches when they have to, but preferring to live with hospitable girlfriends. It's extremely common. Lots of people, I only have experience with men, but probably women too, will try to move in with you the first week or so after meeting, usually with a sad story about where they're currently living. Even if it goes well at first, if things stop going well, you can end up feeling stuck. Story 24. No matter what private or intimate things you tell her, chances are her friends will know about it. It does not matter how serious you think the conversation is or how much she promises to keep it just between the two of you. Somehow, it will get shared with at least one person in her circle. Usually, she'll justify it to herself by saying she just needed advice or feedback from a trusted friend. But the truth is, once you open up to her, you have to accept that your secrets might not stay secret. It's not about betrayal necessarily, but more about how women often rely on their friends for support and perspective, and they include the things you share. This can be really frustrating and even depressing if you value privacy, but it is something you have to come to terms with if you want to date. Expecting full confidentiality might be childish because that's just not how things often work in practice. Story 25. If you have any sort of feelings and hope that it'll turn into something more, you're only going to hurt yourself by staying in a situationship, friends with benefits scenario with someone. I had a situationship a few years ago that was so emotionally difficult. Like, I remember being upset and asking him, "How do you not want to lock this down? We get along so great, we can talk for hours, and we have insane chemistry. I just don't understand how that's not something you want to hold on to." It was so stressful and draining. My life became so much easier when I cut ties with him for good. I have a friends with benefits situation going on now, and it's been going on for several months. For different reasons, neither of us can see a future with the other person. For me, it's because he's a bit older than I, and I've always envisioned having kids with someone my age. So now it's like, "Hey, I am going to be free Thursday. Want to come over and watch horror movies and bang?" And it's an easy yes. And there's nothing else to it. No nights spent crying, wishing it were more. It truly is a unicorn scenario. I started dating at 18, and this started when I was 28. Story 26. If you are an average-looking guy, don't let dating apps ruin your self-esteem or sense of self-worth. The top 10% of men get 90% of the likes and attention. A woman can open a Tinder profile with zero info and a picture of a doorknob at 9 a.m. and will still have 100 likes by lunchtime. As a guy, unless you look like Henry Cavill, then it's basically tumbleweeds. I get maybe one match a month tops, then they usually stop responding or unmatch within 1 or 2 messages when it's at the hellos and asking a basic question about something in their profile stage. Granted, it's not helped because 1, I refuse to pay for it, so it keeps the likes away and never shows them to me when I am swiping. 2, I am autistic and find online messaging strangers stressful as all heck. I hate it. Story 27. Honestly, you can grind the dating scene for years, like 10 years of endless swiping, going on first dates that go nowhere, getting ghosted, and dealing with fake profiles and catfishing. It's exhausting and can seriously burn you out. You start to hate dating. You lose hope. You just give up. That's how it was for me for a long time. The endless cycle of disappointment made me pretty cynical. But here's the twist. After years of giving up, I gave Tinder one last shot. And on the very first match and first date, I met my wife. We ended up texting all night for 6 or 7 hours before we even met. I remember thinking to myself, okay, if the one is going to be found on a stupid app, this is how it's supposed to start. Story 28. The dark truth is that dating, because it involves other human beings, is unpredictable, uncontrollable, and often chaotic. The sooner you accept that and come to peace with it, the better and more enjoyable the process will be. The apps can do light filtering for you, such as seeing if people are monogamous or not, want kids or not, or how far away they live. Beyond that, apps can't really do much other than connect you to people, which is pretty good actually. Someone's profile might give you some idea of their sense of humor and maybe their looks, but ultimately it's not going to be like looking at a painting in a well-lit room and guessing as to what it is. It's like trying to feel a painting in a dark room and guessing at what it is. So, how do you figure out if someone is right for you or not? You meet them and get to know them. People spend so much time trying to figure out from someone's profile if they should match or meet up, when, like in reality, if you think you can stand to be in a room with them for 30 minutes, you should just go ahead and match or swipe right. Chat with them for like 15 minutes just to make sure they aren't a bot or something weird, and then go ahead and set a date. Try as much as possible to remove barriers when matching and meeting people. However, once you do meet up with someone, if you see red flags, if you're not feeling comfortable and at ease with them, if you're struggling to connect, if something feels off, or if you don't feel secure in the connection, end it. If you're feeling generous, give it maybe one more date, but if things don't improve, break it off. Low bar for entry, high bar for continuation. But I feel like so many people do it the opposite way and stick out with people who weren't good matches from the first date. Story 29. If it wasn't already obvious, dating apps aren't built to find you a matching partner quickly, but rather to extract as much money as possible out of the process while feeding you just enough potential matches to not make you quit out of frustration. They're a classic example of a perverse incentive, i.e., where your business model makes people stop using your business if your claimed incentive is too successful. Not helping are people, especially men, who blanket everyone the app throws at them. If you do that, you will be shown less and less to other people. While you do not miss anyone who already liked you back that way, you will be shown less frequently and much deeper into the stack to other people, and eventually, people may not see you at all and thus cannot even like or match you. Ergo, you likely don't receive likes not because you're too ugly for Tinder, but because Tinder hides you since you liked everything that looks even remotely like partner material. And failing to realize that is extremely harmful for your self-esteem. Story 30. Dating and relationships are not even close to what you think they are from social media. It's insane how many relationships have failed due to social media influence. You could be sitting on the couch adjacent to your partner, scrolling through Facebook, and all you see is your friends and connections traveling the world, making all these great memories, doing fun things, etc. And you think you're missing out or that your relationship is bland. Do you think everyone just travels and has a great new experience every damn day? Chances are, they're sitting at home doing the same thing you're doing and just decided to post a picture from a trip 2 years ago. Also, relationship expectations have exploded due to social media. Perfectly normal dates, small engagement rings, cheap cars, normal jobs, normal clothing, etc. aren't nice enough anymore. Don't get me wrong, there are perfectly normal men and women out there who haven't fallen for the social media effect, but it's mind-blowing how many have. Story 31. Not everyone has a person or soulmate. Online dating and dating in general only work for some of us. If we were all destined to find a partner, nature would probably make sure that person shows up in our lives no matter what. I am 27, and honestly, I gave up on dating years ago because I started to believe maybe it's just not meant for me. That means some people might spend their entire lives dating and going through unsuccessful relationships, and that's okay to acknowledge. For a lot of us, including myself, it might just not be in the cards to have a lifelong relationship. Sometimes, chasing that ideal just ends up traumatizing us and making us miss out on other ways to enjoy life. That said, I also agree that there isn't a magical someone for everyone, but relationships take time and work. At 27, if you met the right person now, dated for a few years, and got married, by the time you're in your 50s, you could have decades together. That's not crazy or impossible. It's realistic. It takes patience and effort. I am not saying you must find someone to be happy, or that happiness depends on relationships, but it's important to remember you're not too old, and it's never impossible. Sometimes it just takes time, and that's okay too. Story 32. One thing I've come to realize is that a lot of people are incredibly shallow, even if they don't see it that way. There's this weird double standard where people demand perfection in others, looks, status, emotional intelligence, you name it, while also expecting to be accepted just as they are, flaws and all. It's a bizarre dating culture where self-awareness often goes out the window, and entitlement sneaks in instead. I've been lucky in love. My husband and I met back in college, and we've always made it work because we both understand that neither of us is perfect, but we're perfect for each other. That mindset, mutual effort, humility, and acceptance feel rare in modern dating, where too many people treat relationships like shopping for a flawless product instead of building a connection with a real, imperfect human. Another hard truth I've learned as I've gotten older is that dating apps aren't the only or even the best way to meet people. The secret weapon most people overlook is networking. Seriously, just knowing more people, whether through work, hobbies, or mutual friends, opens up so many more doors, not just for dating, but for friendships, career moves, emotional support, you name it. Modern dating can be harsh and performative, and if you're not careful, it can leave you feeling like you're never enough. But the antidote is real connection, not chasing impossible standards. Story 33. Online dating is a perfect environment for people who are bad at long-term relationships, and it only gets worse the older you get. And it doesn't help that most apps are owned by the same crappy company that prioritizes user engagement over outcomes. They're all designed to be addictive and ineffective for those wanting to find partners. The worst part is that there used to be good sites and communities, but they all got bought out, after which they got either Tinderified or deleted. A long time ago, in a galaxy far away, OkCupid was a great dating site. So was Plenty of Fish, if you can believe it. I am married to my 98% OkCupid match. There was a golden period in the 5 years preceding Match.com buying OkCupid that allowed this to happen. OkCupid had an excellent compatibility algorithm based on thousands of questions you could answer. You'd give your answer for the question, "When I am socializing, I don't drink, drink a little, sometimes drink a lot, or love to party hard." Then, select which answers you find acceptable in a partner, and how important you feel this question is to you. The questions were about all aspects of living: money, saving, investing, marriage, socializing, friends, drug use, kindness, how you treat others, etc. I married my 98% compatible match after answering 2,000 of the same questions. We've never had an argument over anything of substance that divides people. It's so easy to love someone when those things never get in the way. Match.com bought it after we met and started changing things. It was a free dating site that allowed you to communicate with your matches. The paid features gave you the power to see more info. It didn't have fake profiles messaging you to entice you to pay to read the messages. Incidentally, being a paid member is how I learned that my 98% match was reading my profile multiple times a day. Without paying, you just saw that someone visited in the prior few days. Seeing her genuine interest in my profile from the paid feature, seeing multiple visits, I chose to message her, and the rest is history. Story 34. There aren't a lot of places where it's okay or normal to meet people in person. Dating apps led to an overwhelming amount of positive feedback, with at least the implication of consent that you can always get easily before you approach people in real life. And as a result, people started going out less to find people and more with prearranged plans with people they'd met. Add to this, people are now hyper-aware that it's dangerous to meet complete strangers, especially for women. Which isn't to say that all strange men or strange people are dangerous, but mass media makes it easy to hear the horror stories of people who met the worst examples. And with stakes that high, it's hard to feel trusting of anyone you don't know in some way. So even if you went out specifically to find someone, it's hard both to approach someone and to be open to someone approaching you without being wary that they might have darker motives than a hookup or a relationship. I mean, look, there are a lot of people who are grumbling that women should be more trusting and less irrational. I am not sure if that's you exactly. But you need to keep in mind that even if the odds aren't really that high, the consequences of being too trusting here are that you get offed, essayed, or kidnapped. Even while unlikely, those outcomes aren't off the table, and it's genuinely creepy how commonplace it can be to see people who are just openly planning to do that crap. So, while it is a problem with broader effects, it's hard for me personally to blame women for being on edge. I live in a major city and have been working downtown and commuting for a decade pre-pandemic. I have been followed, harassed, and essayed while on the way to work, out at lunch, or after work at happy hour, and only one of the maybe 20 memorable times has been by someone I know. Women have to be on edge because it happens, and it has likely happened to some degree to every woman you know. Even if it's only 10% of the time, like your unfounded statistic, that's still too much, and it's completely reasonable for people to be cautious if they want to feel safe. Story 35. There are people on dating apps who are on them blatantly for paid hookups, but there are also people who will try to use you in much more hidden ways, whether it's getting you to buy them dinner, gifts, etc. There are also people who will pretend to be interested because they want you to follow them on social media, buy their content on OF, or will start asking you to make content with them for social media or OF. Basically, using you to make a profit in some other way. Or using you by basically being their trip buddy that takes photos for their social media page, etc. As soon as you decline to do this or call them out for it, they ghost. Intimacy and social life have become so commodified. Story 36. If you're a woman who dates men, pretty much don't expect equal partnership to be offered to you by most men. If you're okay with that, then great. If you're not okay with that and looking for equal partnership, that means you're pickier than average. However, I think it's worth waiting until you find someone who, in practice, shakes out to be a partner who actually does approximately half of the work in the relationship. Housework, emotional labor, childcare, etc., based on my experience. Don't just settle. I had to shift through a lot of men to find my equal partnership. It was rough, And I was platonic friends with him for 4 years before we started dating. We took it super slow. When we became friends, we both only had the idea of being friends at the time. There was no desire to sleep with each other or anything. We legitimately started as friends, and we hung out 1-2 times a month at the zoo for 4 years and 6 months into dating. I told him I loved him, but that he was not required to say it back if he didn't feel that way yet, that I wouldn't be upset. He smiled at me and said, "Thank you, I am flattered," and I felt so amazing in that moment, even though he didn't say it back. He ended up saying it a year into our relationship. He said it when giving me a hug on my bed after I was telling him how thankful I was to have him in my life. Anyways, he's amazing. We are absolutely an equal partnership, while also still having independence and privacy, completely trust each other. 100% honest communication at all times. He does as many of the house chores as me. Well, he actually does more than me a lot. He cooks because he likes to, and I am not a good cook. We split the bills, separate bank accounts, but discuss all money-related stuff so we can pull our money together for it. He has one car in his name, and I have one in my name. He lets me feel independent. I have the means to leave if I ever feel I need to, so he helps me feel safe, and independence is a safety thing for me, while also taking care of me. He does all kinds of little things for me here and there that are so thoughtful and make sure I am taking care of myself. I tend to lack self-care occasionally. He helps me in these times. I could go on about how amazing he is, but yes, don't settle. But also don't get your hopes up either, because it was rough before I finally found him. I was literally on the verge of saying I was done dating when he and I started dating. Story 37. With how many people move around these days, socially and geographically, lifelong marriage feels almost impossible for most people. The reality is that so many can't consistently provide the kind of economic stability that makes them a secure partner over the long haul. This isn't just bitterness talking. Unless you're living in an upper middle class or higher bubble, it's really clear. People struggle to stay financially afloat, let alone build a long-term foundation with someone else. What's worse is how many zombie relationships keep dragging on, well past their expiration date, not because people want to stay together, but because the cost of living and economic pressure make breaking up feel impossible or just too risky. So yeah, modern dating isn't just about feelings or chemistry. It's wrapped up in money, stability, and survival in a way that makes long-term commitments much harder to maintain. Story 38. You are worthy of more than what apps suggest that you do, and for a very dark reason. If a man is hot enough to get matched with a lot of women daily, why would he care about hurting the feelings of a girl on a date when he can simply arrange a date with another one for the next day or week? The opposite also applies. Researchers who have actually analyzed data from such apps have seen that men seem to be getting significantly fewer matches than women. Thus, even a slightly above average girl in looks is likely getting many matches daily. When people are getting more dating opportunities than they could physically find time to actually date for something like matching with more than 15 to 30 people per week, there is no need to have empathy for dating partners or to treat them as human beings worthy of empathy. At the slightest problem, a miscalculated joke, a slight delay in date, it is easier to dump them and go date the next person than to develop interpersonal conflict skills, and people take this easier route. Don't get fooled by online dating apps showing a very distorted picture of you as someone that people don't want to date. Story 39. As you age past 40, your dating pool doesn't just shrink, it fragments. If you date in your age group, many of the people you might find yourself attracted to are already in long-term relationships or married, or they're navigating complex life circumstances like divorce or caretaking, or they're not even particularly interested in dating in the first place. If you're heterosexual, this shift is often even more pronounced. Women tend to outnumber men demographically as age increases, and though it's long been a pattern for men to seek younger partners later in life, the pattern is exacerbated by the significant decrease in the numbers of potential partners as they age. Speaking of, by the time you hit 50, especially if you're in a non-metro area, the dating pool narrows dramatically. Fewer people are actively seeking new relationships, and fewer still are likely to be aligned with your preferences in lifestyle, values, and personality. That's without factoring in practical hurdles. There are way fewer social events for people in this age group. There's less physical mobility, so common social events like dances or sports are options less often. And many people are less tech-savvy, so they struggle to navigate dating apps, which still, unfortunately, dominate the modern dating landscape. And that's all just at the starting line. Now add in any niche interests like cultural, intellectual, political, or spiritual preferences, and you're taking an already tiny pool and filtering nearly everyone out of it. Prefer dating someone child-free, progressive, active, emotionally literate, Asian, short, open to non-traditional relationship structures? Each layer of preference cuts the available options by half, often more. And that's if you're lucky enough to live in a high-population metropolitan area. If you're in a rural or smaller town setting, your options just dried up to nearly zero. A 100-mile radius might yield no viable matches at all, especially if public transportation or flexible schedules aren't on your side. And this doesn't even begin to touch on you as a dating option, income, physical appearance, personality, etc. Your dating pool is ridiculously tiny to start, and finding someone who not only matches what you're looking for, but also likes what they see in you, nearly impossible. In short, dating past 50 becomes less about choosing your favorite out of multiple options and more about learning to accept a lot of trade-offs, being willing to travel farther, being willing to accept slightly different values or politics, and being willing to accept a smoker when you don't like smoking. You might get lucky and meet someone who really does match you in most ways, but for most people, you're going to need extreme patience, a wide-open mind, relocation, or a big-time shift in expectations, and probably a little of all four, or lots of money. Story 40. Because of the internet and social media, a lot of people know they have more options and are willing to put up with less. It used to be that the men/women in your town or surrounding towns were all that was available unless you moved, so you either had to deal with what you had or move. That also meant you had to stick with what you had. Now you can find someone new much quicker, so couples will break up much quicker/easier. Divorce has also become less taboo as the years have gone on, so even marriage is a non-factor now. A good analogy is that relationships are like cars. It used to be you got one and worked with it, and if something broke down, you fixed it, whether by learning how to fix it or going to someone else for help fixing it. Getting a new one only happened when it was completely destroyed. Now you can trade in for basically no reason or even super weird reasons like, I just got bored with it. Story 41. There is no such thing as being a bad texter, only a bad communicator. Being a good texter is a litmus test for being able to communicate in general. It requires you to organize your thoughts and then communicate them in a clear, concise manner. Tone, seriousness, and nuance can be accomplished with parentheticals and very selective word choice. Having gone out with self-proclaimed bad texters, I find they do not get better in person. I have never gone out with a bad texter to find them pontificating at length and in detail in conversation. See also, there is a difference between not liking texting, which is valid, and being a bad texter/communicator. Story 42. Here's a different take on modern dating. Not the dark truths, but some bright and sweet realities that often get overlooked. Because honestly, knowing all the harsh stuff might not be all that helpful if it just makes you cynical. In today's world, with so much isolation and loneliness, people are actually a lot more open to talking and being truly listened to. If you can be a giver, that means offering kindness and love without expecting anything in return, not even gratitude. You'll find the dating experience much more fulfilling. It's about giving freely, not keeping score. Another thing to think about is what kind of life you want to live. What's your purpose or mission? It doesn't have to be something grand or legendary. Even something simple, something you love to talk about, can help you attract people who share similar dreams. In a world that feels increasingly self-centered and materialistic, when someone speaks honestly about their purpose, others naturally gravitate toward them. Knowing your values is also key. In an increasingly superficial world, being aware of your own values helps you quickly decide where to invest your time and when to walk away from things that don't align with who you are. It gives clarity to your choices, which makes dating less confusing. Finally, consider your role in the world. Are you a leader? If so, what kind of leader are you? And what do you want to lead people toward? Or are you more of a follower? And if so, what qualities are you looking for in a leader? When you answer these questions, dating becomes much easier because you know what you want and who you want to be. Story 43. I've been out of the dating pool for a decade, but something I identified early on is that you want accessibility and moderation. Any app that's based on making it easy to move on to the next candidate is something that's fine for hookups, but much less so if you're looking for a romantic connection. It's too easy to say, not perfect, and never connect, particularly if you don't look like an Instagram influencer. You want something that requires a little more investment. Yeah, that means you're going to waste time and effort on people who go nowhere, but it means that you'll eventually find one where it pays off. And no shade to people just looking to hook up. Just make sure you're using the correct tool for what you want. Story 44. If you are male on a dating app, it can seem like matches never happen or that matches are 1 out of 10,000 swipes, but everything is controlled by an algorithm to drive maximum engagement. If you understand this and are mindful of your activity, then you can trick the algorithm into showing more people your profile. Exit the app if you don't get any matches. Teach the algorithm that the fewer matches you get, the less time you spend in the app. The algorithm will also look at engagement time, so don't just blindly swipe and don't swipe on every profile. You want the algorithm to believe that you are being choosy and spending time within the app, but that you also will leave if you don't receive matches. When I did this, I would swipe 10-12 profiles and swipe right on approximately 4 to 7 of them. If I didn't get a match, I would exit the app and wait 2 to 3 days, a week sometimes, etc. If I received a match, I would stay in the app for considerably longer. I may message that match, and I would return more frequently following a match, but 2 to 3 days without another match, and I would slow everything all over again. This method gave the best results for receiving matches. I think the algorithm was just showing my profile to more people. The worst method to receive more matches was the mass swiping without looking at any of the profiles. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.